post it. So when we finished up last time, I finished, we were kind of going over, and so I finished at a weird time. We were just finishing up the chemical stuff. So I want to finish that for people who didn't want to miss any of that, and talk about a little bit about the rest of the chemicals that we were talking about before, okay? So sorry about, jumping in like this and at the very end of something that I really should have finished up last time I talked, but I didn't. So that is just completely my fault that I didn't do that. And I don't want to just like skip a part. I thought about it and I was like, should I just skip it? And I was like, well, no, why does it hurt, right? It'll just take a minute to go over this. And at least the information is out there now for you guys. So let me find out where I was. I had this all set for me and then it was gone. Okay. So I think I finished right before the oxide family, and I didn't have a screenshot of this. I couldn't actually find one for the oxide family, but I'll tell you what they are. And oxides are oxygenated compounds that include the oxygen atom, part of a hydrocarbon ring structure, and you can identify an oxide based on its proper name, which usually ends in something oxide, right? Or something ol. So we might have eucalyptol, rose oxide, linalool oxide, caraphyllene oxide, and pinene oxide. And then you notice that eucalyptol is also in the ether family. So just because they're in one family doesn't mean they can't be in another family. So because of their structure, it's not uncommon for some constituents to belong to even multiple chemical families. And what oxides do for an essential oil is they provide antioxidant support. Makes sense, oxides, antioxidant support, right? That's easy to remember. They promote a sense of clear breathing. They help with the healthy respiratory function and are soothing to sore muscles. So oils that are high in those monoterpene oxides include things like eucalyptus and rosemary, and oils that are high in the sesquiterpene oxides include copaiba and melissa. So I think we might have gone over part of that before, but not all of it. So I want to make sure I went over the rest of that. So now we talk a little bit briefly about the phenylpropene family. I think we talked about this maybe at the very end last time, and I'm not sure how far I got in it, so I want to kind of brush over it really quickly. And those are molecules with a benzene ring attached to an LL group, 3 carbon atoms, 5 hydrogen atoms. That means nothing to us, right? But the examples would be something like safrole, estradiol, transethyl, L-amycin, and myristicin. Myristicin, I think it's pronounced. And unlike the other chemical families that typically end in similar suffixes, the phenylpropenes can be difficult to recognize because they really have unique names. So what do they do for the essential oil? Well, they support healthy brain and cardiovascular system function. They provide more antioxidants. In fact, most essential oils provide a good amount of antioxidants, which is really nice about it. And this family also aids in digestion. The oils that are high in monoterpene phenylpropenes include, what do you think? What do you think one of the ones we think of for digestion? Not a really common one, but one that you'll recognize for digestion. So don't name your common ones. Any ideas? Okay, so I'll tell you. It includes Fennel. Fennel is one of the ones. That's one of the kind of lesser known ones for digestion. I don't know if anybody's ever tried it specifically for digestion because we usually reach for, our peppermint or ginger, but Fennel's one. Myrtle. So we have seen lemon myrtle with doTERRA before. Anise. So we saw star anise. Also, we saw in one of our gift packs a couple years ago, and basil, one of the ones we carry regularly. So, that's a lot about molecules, and it's really important to get a grasp on the molecules that make essential oils work. Now, I don't know why we went over this before. We talked about eucalyptus. I'm not sure. I think my slides are a little bit messed up, so we're going to ignore the
Sorry
slides.
about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about synergy. So this word synergy is derived from the Greek word synergi, which means to work together. And I'm sorry if you're Greek and I mispronounce that. I'm thinking it's synergi. Makes sense to me. But it might not be in Greek. I don't speak Greek. But that means to work together. Synergy. We understand it as working together in synergy, right? And this term is really used to describe how collectively the whole is more important than the sum of its isolated pieces. So when you have pieces here like this, right? Not so great, but when we have pieces all together, they can work in synergy with each other. And sometimes that is a lot more important than each of those individual pieces. So single essential oil constituents have been widely studied and demonstrated for a lot of health benefits. And for simplicity's sake, we'll say, you know, isolating those individual constituents is common. That's what we do. That's what scientists try to identify, name, categorize these constituents. And single constituents are often used in their isolated form as additives in the cosmetic, pharmaceutical, and food products even, to enhance their beneficial properties. So if you wanted, you know, just to isolate linalool, let's say, from an oil, you could do that for a specific purpose. And they do that in different industries. But as the science behind the essential oils, you know, continues to grow, we have a better understanding of the whole oil's physiologic functionality. And so an isolated constituent, so when we're talking about an isolated constituent, we're not talking about an oil, we are talking about a piece of that oil. So like if we take an oil that has linalool and it has linalool acetate and it has whatever in it, different alkenes or whatever in it. Okay, it's got all these different constituent parts and they're measured in a report. And this is where I want to kind of show you what these reports look like. It's measured like this. This is a doTERRA report. Sorry, it's hard to see. I can't see it on their site either. This is just the way it is and I couldn't get it any bigger. So I'm going to squint at it a little bit and see if I can see it. But, you know, we look at these different compounds that are in it. These are a bunch of different compounds, right? For this oil, there's a whole bunch of things in it. So when we're talking about these different constituents, we are talking about one of these compounds. So when an isolated constituent is in the presence of other constituents, it will act differently than it acts when it's alone. So when it's alone, when it's isolated from the other parts, taken out from the other parts, it may demonstrate a really specific chemical or beneficial property, but that may not necessarily be reflective as the oil as a whole. So in nature, no constituent ever works alone, right? Instead, it interacts with all those other constituents to create a beneficial whole essential oil that we have, right? And there's also an increased safety in variety. So a complex profile of constituents, which we see here, see all these constituents on this one, right? And when we have a complex profile of constituents, it covers a broader range of health applications while also preventing a concentrated abundance of one constituent to minimize the risk for toxicity, right? And that makes sense. We see all these things, right? How many oils have multiple purposes? For those of us who have been in doTERRA a while, we've seen multiple purposes for a bunch of different oils, right? So some studies have actually demonstrated the principle of synergy, and we're going to talk about a few of them here. So one of them is effectively disinfecting a surface, right? And other commonly used items is a critical part of maintaining health. So we want to disinfect things, right? And one study examined the effectiveness of a pure eucalyptus oil compared to an isolated 1,8 cineol, and that's a constituent that's recognized as the active cleansing agent in a lot of essential oils. You actually see that in a lot of essential oils, and I've seen it because I look at the mass specs all the time. And the 1,8 cineol is super common. The eucalyptus oil was shown to be a lot more effective than just isolating out that 1,8 cineol against the potential environmental threats. And those differences in efficacy suggest that those minor constituents in essential oils really contribute a whole synergistic effect that improves the beneficial effects of an oil as a whole. That was a study done in 2009. And so when we look at these and we're looking at all these different constituent parts, you can see some of these are as little as, do you see some of these 0.02, 0.01, and you're thinking, wow. And somebody will say, well, that's hardly anything. It is hardly anything, but it could be very important, hardly anything, right? And we believe that nature is intelligent. It's intelligently designed, right? And plants are going to protect themselves the best they know how, and they do that with these essential oils. So they're going to have all these different parts in that oil to help protect itself, and therefore, when we use it, we also benefit from all those trace amounts of chemicals, natural chemicals that are in the oils. So interestingly enough, this oil is doTERRA's, and look at how many different things there are. Can you count how many there are? There's 3, 6, 9, 10, 42, about 54, I think, total. This is the same oil by a different company. This is eucalyptus, okay? And it has 35, or actually, I'm not even sure. They list them as TR, means trace, I assume. I'm not actually sure because they didn't tell us. Maybe trans for all I know. But you can see that there are only 35 actual chemicals listed here. this one doesn't even have anything in it. I'm not sure what that means, why they would list something. So that's why I think this is trace, because otherwise why list it if it's not actually in there? That's what makes sense to me. And you can see this 1,8-cineol, that's one of its primary parts. You can see the limonene in there, you know, very prevalent in pinene. But then you see all these different isolated chemicals or non-isolated chemicals that make up the whole, and ours is different than theirs. So why is ours different? Maybe a different plant. They may not have fully extracted it to get all the trace amounts in it. It may not matter with this specific oil. We actually don't know, or it might be super important. And again, we don't know, right? So, you know, we do research that surrounds the ability of these essential oils to support healthy cell function, and we're studying that even more and more. And so we found in a study that we tested the effectiveness of mandarin essential oil compared to its major constituent, which is limonene, right? I wonder if it's limonene in eucalyptus. Oh, it's also in eucalyptus. So in eucalyptus, it's only 7.55. But if you look at the report on mandarin's much higher in limonene, as the fruit oils are, right? And researchers attributed this to the mandarin oil's minor, let me go back. So we compared the mandarin and we compared it with its major constituent part, which is limonene. So you have a study and you take out the limonene. So they have a way, you know, when in science, and Faith probably knows this, where they can extract just a piece of that chemical makeup. And so if they can extract this limonene all by itself, but if you take it isolated, it shows a very powerful inhibitory effect on the damaged cells. But the whole essential oil is more effective overall with what they're trying to solve. So researchers are attributing this to its minor constituents, which then gives it that synergistic effect to limonene's ability to support the healthy DNA and cell growth. So overall, the essential oil is more effective than just one of its isolated parts. We see that over and over. I mean, they see it in all kinds of studies, which is, you know, been pretty amazing when you're looking at the whole field of essential oils and how important are all these different little parts. So then we look at how important is it to actually test these oils. So unfortunately, as the market's demand for essential oils has continued to grow, so has contamination and adulteration. And you see it in any industry. I dealt with it in the organic textile industry, same thing. When it was niche and nobody cared much about it, you didn't see a bunch of, you know, people coming in and lying and, you know, trying to adulterate or have impure products. But as the industry grew and became more popular, more and more people came in. Then you start getting the dishonest people, and then you got people cutting corners, and then you got Walmart cutting corners. You know, everybody's trying to get the price down. It's become very competitive. And unfortunately, what happens is that's where you see contamination and adulteration in a lot of fields. It's happened in supplements, it's happened in essential oils, it's happened in textiles. I'm sure it's happened in a lot of industries. So both contaminated and adulterated oils, so those are two different things, contamination, adulteration, both of them result in products that are, you know, impure, they're less effective, and they can even be dangerous. So quality testing helps us to identify and detect that contamination and adulteration before they can harm someone. So when we talk about it, let's compare the two. So we've got contamination. What is contamination? So contamination is unintentional. It's an accident, right? It happens when impurities like heavy metals or plastics or pesticides aren't caught and they're removed, you know, and they're not removed during that distillation or supply chain process. So it's really easy to detect contamination through basic testing methods because we can find out, is there plastic in it? Is there pesticides in it? That's pretty easy to test for. And then the causes, you know, obviously can be when the impurities inadvertently make it into a batch of oil. It can be because the equipment maybe isn't cleaned between batches appropriately, right? You could end up with lavender in your rose oil from that, right? Or mixtures of other oils. And high quality distilling facilities have really strict cleaning protocols in place to avoid this type of contamination. And in addition to unclean machinery, contamination can often occur due to a lack of resources or proper equipment. So for example, some plants are harvested and distilled by growers in a lot of rural areas and developing countries where the resources are really limited. So there have been cases where these growers will distill plant material and collect the essential oil in plastic soda bottles. You all know that's a bad idea, right? Because that's all they have available. So this isn't very common, but it does happen. And the problem with this practice is that some essential oils, for example, lemon, can break down the plastic of the soda bottle, which leaches plastic chemicals like plasticizers and phthalates into the oil. And that contaminates the whole batch, right? So contamination could also be introduced during the plant's growing process, such as like if pesticides are sprayed on that plant or heavy metals are present in the soil, they of course can work their way into the oils, especially if they're not steamed out properly along the way. They can be exposed to other substances and synthetic chemicals. They could have chloroparabens in them, which are chemicals that are used in like paints or flame retardants, lubricants, and other stuff, right? Contamination really can be avoided by carefully monitoring the process from beginning to end. And we know in doTERRA, they use the same equipment for just one oil, as far as I know. And it makes sense because they only do one oil in each of these locations they do admin, right? They have just one oil, so they don't even have to clean out the equipment from that. I'm sure they clean their equipment, but they don't have to worry about contamination because like when I was in Hawaii and I looked at the sandalwood plant, that's all they do there is sandalwood. That's all they ever do there is this sandalwood. So it can't get contaminated from some other oil because of that, right? And it grows way up in the mountains in the middle of, really, the middle of nowhere. We got on buses and went to the middle of nowhere. There is no contamination. They are way up on a mountain. There's no way anything's getting in that oil. And then adulteration is a whole other thing. Because adulteration is intentionally including compromising substances, and they can be natural or synthetic, but they affect the safety or the effectiveness of a product. So those can be found in essential oils. They can be found in our food, cosmetics, fuel, you know, everything that we use, right? And common adulteration practices really include adding isolated aromatic chemicals, substituting or adding less expensive oils. We've all heard about people using lemongrass to make Melissa, right? You can dilute it with another substance completely. You can add a synthetic chemical. And unlike contamination, the adulteration of essential oils does not happen by accident. Adulterating an oil takes purposeful planning, and unfortunately, it's really difficult to detect. But testing can't always spot adulteration, and the untrained eye usually doesn't see it. So why would somebody adulterate an essential oil? And some of you guys already know it. Off the top of your head, what would you think? Why would somebody adulterate an essential oil? What are some of the common reasons you would think?
I would say greed, because they could adulterate it. Say for the Melissa, take out half, put in some cheap oil like olive oil and sell it for the same price as the real Melissa oil. So I think it's greed.
Yep, that's a very common one. So, you know, what do they get? They get higher profits, right? They lower the cost, increase the supply. Okay, I don't have to get that one. Okay, so the pure essential oils can be really costly to produce. We know that. People always comment, essential oils from doTERRA, they're expensive. Why? Because they're expensive to make. That's why they're expensive. And they're really good, pure products. And that means that we have a lot of processes in place that are expensive. We've invested in good equipment that doesn't contaminate the oils, right? We make sure they're really pure. They go through 9 forms of testing. That's expensive. They go to third-party testing each time too. That's expensive. So we pay that money to get the pure product that we enjoy. So unscrupulous suppliers might try to lower their cost by adding other substances to the essential oils. So I don't know if you've seen this, but I have seen this before. And I think one was on Craigslist. Somebody was selling a barrel of, was it sandalwood? Might have been sandalwood. They were selling a barrel of sandalwood, essential oil, a whole barrel full, right? And somebody probably bought it, and some company probably sold it, and they probably have no idea what's actually in there because it was a good deal, right? I'm looking at it, I'm going, oh my gosh, if I could fill doTERRA bottles with this, I could make a fortune, right? But we don't want to do that to people. And that's what doTERRA doesn't want to do that to people. We have our good names to protect, so we're not doing that. But there are people out there doing that. And unknowingly, stores could even get involved. They may say, oh yeah, if they don't understand oils, they'll say, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can just do that. Okay, yeah, I'll take that. If you can bottle it for me, I'll take it, and I can save a bunch of money and sell it at Walmart, right? So, adulteration of essential oils is dramatically increasing because of what? Because the demand is really starting to outpace our supply. And that's where we're very lucky that doTERRA has had the foresight to lock up their supply chains to make sure that we do have supply, so that we won't run out of oils, hopefully. But there could be a point where, there's only so much vegetation you can get and so many places you can go to get them. So the way that they, meet that increased demand is they dilute it with, like you said, vegetable oil. They could add synthetic chemicals that were created artificially. Creating an artificial chemical is super cheap. You can buy them super cheap. Another one is, like you said, passing off the less expensive oils as rare ones. We see that a lot with Melissa. You have to be super careful. Melissa, Rose, some of your really expensive ones, you have to be super careful. I had somebody, they used to even buy Rose off of Amazon. I'm like, yeah, not a good idea. That's really expensive oil. And yeah, you're getting it on Amazon for $200 instead of $275. But how do you know that's even pure? And how do you know it's treated properly? We have also noticed that oils, if they're not stored correctly, they will lose efficacy. They lose, part of their powerful ability because they sat around for way too long or in the wrong environment. In your hot car, they're going to lose some efficacy, and they can even go bad.
Yeah, I had that conversation with somebody, Jenny. They actually said, I can get rose oil half price on Amazon. And I was like, yeah, unfortunately, rose is a very powerful smelling oil, so you can't tell if it's been cut or not.
Right.
You just really can't tell if it's been adulterated.
Yeah, the nose can't tell.
I mean, without a test, obviously.
Yeah, and especially when you add synthetics, because like if you add synthetic linalool acetate to lavender, it actually makes it smell, it can make it smell stronger and actually smells strong. And so you think it's a better oil, but you're getting this synthetic linalool acetate, which doesn't act the same in the human body as the natural form of it. And that's a whole nother conversation we need to have at some point, because people don't understand synthetic and natural do act differently in the human body. They are the same molecularly, but they are not the same at a submolecular level, and they do act different. Some of the other ones that we see very common, people will, and you probably, if you've smelled both of these, they will use cassia instead of the more expensive cinnamon, or they'll do half and half so they get closer to the smell. But you can tell the difference. Like if I take cinnamon, I take cassia, I can smell the difference. They definitely taste different. I tried cassia in my tea. It was gross. I put cinnamon in my tea normally, and I put cassia in there. I was like, oh man, this is disgusting stuff. So I can tell the difference when you taste it. And I don't know if you'd be able to tell the difference if you did half and half though, because I wouldn't do that to my oils. I wouldn't contaminate my cinnamon with my cassia. But if somebody tried that, then, I don't know if you'd be able to tell the difference. People will use spike lavender instead of lavender, for example. Spike lavender is not the same as lavender, and they will do that. We talked about lemongrass and Melissa, another really common one. And then you can, and I'll tell you, I have a bottle of lemongrass and I have a bottle of Melissa, and maybe you guys got some on the sale too, but I can't tell the difference. My nose does not know the difference between those oils. It is a really tough one to tell the difference from. So you could see where people would just add lemongrass, stick it in a Melissa bottle, and try to sell that off if they're criminals. So obviously adulteration can happen at any time. It's usually the result of brokers. Often the essential oil company may not even know that the oils they're selling are adulterated. They can be innocent in this, in that they're just not doing their due diligence. They buy from a broker they trust, or they may not even trust them. They just think that, oh, well, they're selling this, so I can sell it too. They don't realize that they're being duped because they don't have the resources, they don't have the expertise to test for the most sophisticated kinds of adulteration. And that's one of the hardest things, because we see it a lot with these smaller companies, and you see it a lot with the newer companies, because they don't know what they're doing. And it takes a lot of, I would never try to, get into the essential oil industry myself. It looks like a lot of work. There's a lot of double check, triples check, and everything to make sure that you're doing it correctly. And doTERRA has spent a long time developing this and playing by the rules and doing everything carefully to make sure that they are super pure and to have such a good name and be considered the #1 company, right? They may, people that do this, that adulterate oils or buy these oils that are adulterated, may not even know. They may advertise their oils at 100% pure. And in fact, it's not the case, but they don't know that. So, and you can find out sometimes. I've talked to some of these oil companies. I've got on their little chats and I've asked them questions, and you can tell the person on the other end has no idea what they're talking about. I'll ask them very pointed questions, and they don't know. They just do what they're told. They said, oh no, these are 100% pure. And I said, well, how do you know they're 100% pure? Oh, because we know. And it's like, I want a better answer than that. I like doTERRA's answer, because we test every single batch that comes in here. We test it with 9 different kinds of testing, because mass spec doesn't tell you if it's been adulterated. It simply tells you the chemical constituents. You have no idea if they're natural or not. So they do 8 other types of testing, and they send it out for third-party testing, because they want to make sure that they're selling a really pure product. And doTERRA physically goes out there and meets with the farmers. They know exactly where this stuff is coming from. They're hands-on. And a lot of companies aren't. They might not have the ability to or the desire to travel and go to all these different countries where these things come from, so they don't know. So now when we talk about some of the things that they do to adulterate, we'll talk some more specifics. So addition of natural isolated aroma compounds like alpha-pinene, which is isolated from turpentine, can be added to frankincense. You can add castor oil to patchouli. I'm not telling you this so you can do it. Don't do it, guys. I'm just telling you what companies do to try to save money. They can add synthetic methyl salicylate to wintergreen. And they can, again, a lot of times we see this, and I think you've seen this before on labels, and people have asked about it for. Lavandin is not lavender. Lavandin is a less expensive form, similar to lavender. It's not going to act the same. doTERRA has, I believe, lavandin in some of their blends along with lavender, and they're honest about it on the label. Now, a lot of people don't understand. When you buy lavandin, you should pay a lower price for lavandin than for lavender. You should be paying a lower price. But some companies are calling lavandin lavender, and you don't want to be ripped off that way. Now, the hardest thing to detect is when they adulterate with natural stuff. That makes it super hard. So you can add natural isolated volatile organic compounds, which is what all the oils are. All these chemicals are VOCs, right? And these natural isolates are chemical compounds that are present in plants from the get-go, but they've been isolated and they've been removed from their natural source and they're added to an oil. So someone could isolate, let's say, like linalool from a very inexpensive oil like hoe wood. And then they can add it to a more expensive oil such as rosewood. And for instance, alpha-pinene might be extracted from turpentine in pine wood and then added to an essential oil that naturally contains alpha-pinene like frankincense. And turpentine is a byproduct of the paper making industry. So alpha-pinene is easily extracted from it, which provides a natural source of alpha-pinene from trees that's then added to the frankincense. Now, frankincense is 40 to 50 times more expensive than alpha-pinene isolated from turpentine. So detecting that type of adulteration really requires, a really qualified chemist who has significant experience analyzing those essential oils, and a big, huge, massive database that's built up over years of analyzing thousands of samples. That's how they figure out if these are natural, right? Not many companies have those two important resources. Those are very important to have. And then we have mixing and substitutions. So some essential oils are less expensive than others. So producers may mix 2 or more essential oils to cut costs. And we talked about that before, adding lavandin to lavender essential oil. You can add clove stem essential oil with clove bud essential oil because clove stem is cheaper. You can disguise cassia as cinnamon oil. If somebody doesn't know, I mean, I can tell the difference, but if you don't know, you could actually do that. And we detect adulteration with natural isolates by carefully looking at the presence or absence of naturally occurring volatile molecules and incorrect molecular ratios. So that takes expertise way beyond me, way beyond probably most of us, right? You have to have experts that do this day in and day out, and they know when something's off. They can tell, and they can say, this number is not correct. This is not natural. So without that expert level testing, that type of adulteration often slips under the radar, of course. You can adulterate with carrier oils. This is actually something I've been a victim of. I bought a clary sage that was supposed to be doTERRA on Amazon. And it said it was doTERRA and everything. And so I bought it as a test buy to check it. And then when I got it, first of all, it wasn't doTERRA. It was some other brand. I don't even know what brand it was. And it had electrical tape around the top to hold the top on. And then I got my money back from Amazon because I said, this is not what I bought, so fine. And then I decided to play with it. So I put some on my hand, and I could tell, it was clary sage, and I could tell right away that it was greasy feeling. And I got out our clary sage and tried that, and I was like, okay, rub it in my hand, and within a few seconds it started, it was gone. It didn't leave this oily residue. But then with the one with the oil added, it left an oily residue for a very long time on my hand, a very slick residue, right? So that's something that they do. They add carrier oils like that, castor oil or coconut oil, and that takes up space in the essential oil bottle. And in some cases, a company might even pre-dilute an essential oil with a carrier oil for those who want to avoid skin sensitivity. And that's common. And that's not adulteration, because if they're being transparent about it and they're saying, hey, this is in a base of fractionated coconut oil, just like we do. So the type of adulteration we're talking about here consists of adding a carrier oil to an essential oil, not listing it on the label, making consumers think they're receiving a non-diluted oil. So you can use castor oil in frankincense or patchouli in small quantities. That makes it cheaper, right? That cuts costs. but it's misleading. And when we buy something, if we buy something we think is pure, we want it to be pure. And that's why a lot of times I mix my own blends. You know, I will buy for the stuff that's just in carrier oil because it's cheaper to make your own. And I think based on what I've kind of tested, I think they use theirs at about a 20% ratio. I think there's 20% essential oil and 80% carrier oil in their touch blends that we know are in the carrier oils. And then I've looked at other companies, and no company will tell you how much they use, but I have seen some from other companies when I've been to, when I used to get to go to a farmer's market, so we used to have farmer's markets back in the old days before COVID. So I would try those things and they seem very, very diluted. And so you just don't know, unless you know the company, you don't know what the dilution is. And so you don't know really what you're getting. And that's why a lot of times I just like to make my own. You know, we know why we use those that way. Why do we use something already diluted in carrier oil? It's to avoid skin sensitivities, to make it easy. How much easier is it to carry? Okay, here's my choices. I can carry a big old bottle of carrier oil in my purse, right? Like this. Or I can just grab one of my, falling down, one of my pre-diluted, you know, which is easier to carry on my purse. Well, obviously it's going to be easier to carry one of these in my purse, right? So that's why we have them already pre-diluted, because we need that carrier oil with that oil. So obviously when we add carrier oils, you know, when you test it, it leaves really obvious markers. That's probably one of the easiest ways to test for it. If a carrier oil's been added at any point in the production process, you know, any decent essential oil company should be able to tell with basic testing. And a lot of times we even can tell. Another thing they do is adulteration with synthetic chemicals. Now that's a really concerning type of adulteration because you're adding synthetics. Some of these synthetics can be really harmful. And some naturally occurring VOCs, volatile compounds, are easily synthesized in a lab, right? So carvone, which is a major component of spearmint, and carvacrol, which is the primary component in oregano, can be synthesized from limonene. We talked already about how easy it is to get that, right? And when these synthetic chemicals are cheaper than the natural isolate, they could be added to an essential oil to raise profit margins. So synthetic chemicals, similar to their natural equivalents, are easily made from common, you know, petroleum products. And like for me, that would be a major deal because I'm allergic to petroleum derivatives. So I would have a serious reaction to it, and I have when I've dealt with other essential oils in the past. So there's millions and millions of tons of cast-off byproducts from the petroleum industry. And from those cast-off byproducts, you can take raw materials like phenols and other things that come from gas and oil. And then with simple chemical processes, they can be turned into just about any chemical constituent. And they're, you know, and these things are sold. They're sold in big old jugs where you can buy these chemicals anywhere, right? So you can get a hold of these things if you wanted to do this. If you want to synthesize your own essential oils, but those would not work the way we expect our doTERRA oils to work and the way we've gotten used to, right? So here's a little bit more about the adulteration. I want to kind of give you a visual. If you look at this, you can dilute it with the vegetable or mineral oil. You can use non-organic farming practices. You can blend it with cheaper oils. We've talked about adding synthetic substances. You could extend it with ethyl alcohol, or you can extract it with chemical solvents such as hexane, super common. That happens a lot. And wintergreen is a good example because wintergreen essential oil is hard to produce, and it's not uncommon to pay a couple $100s for 1 kilogram of genuine wintergreen. And knowing that the wintergreen essential oil is almost entirely methyl salicylate, some producers purchase synthetic methyl salicylate for less than $10 a kilogram. So, and then they can mix that with small quantities of genuine wintergreen oil, and then they can sell it as pure wintergreen. It smells exactly the same. You would not be able to tell. It would pass most of the testing. It would pass a mass spec even, but you can tell through carbon dating that it's not pure wintergreen. And because it's been produced with petroleum products, carbon dating will show that it's actually 7 million years old, right? Which obviously is too old to be from a wintergreen plant. So testing will also show the absence of naturally occurring monoterpenes, along with identifiable markers, again, confirming that it's a petroleum byproduct rather than pure wintergreen. So I thought that was really interesting. And then lavender, another oil that's commonly adulterated with synthetic chemicals, is lavender. And that's why? Because linyl acetate naturally occurs in lavender in large quantities, and synthetic linyl acetate is a really easy compound to create. So turning a small amount of real lavender oil into a large amount of adulterated oil is simply a matter of adding the synthetic compound. And then some essential oils like neroli and ylang-ylang may be completely reconstructed with synthetic chemicals. And we talked earlier about ylang-ylang. A lot of times they'll also do partial distillation. They don't distill it all the way because it takes 24 hours to distill ylang-ylang. So the creation of the synthetic chemicals inevitably will leave markers or impurities that originate from the starting material. And so these markers may go unnoticed by the untrained chemist or a chemist who's not using a robust database with these chemical standards present. So how to know if an oil is adulterated? I'm going to finish up with this because we're getting kind of late here. So when we're testing for adulteration, the chemist needs to look at more than just the major constituents of the oil. You have to know what to look for in each oil that indicates adulteration because these show up in trace amounts, often less than 0.5%. One example is peppermint and corn mint. We've heard that before, right? Because corn mint is treated, if it's treated to remove some of its menthol content, the chemist would see the major components of peppermint, menthol and menthone, right, in the right ratios. But when the chemist looks closely at the minor components like isopulagol and menthofuran, and if I'm pronouncing these wrong, do not laugh at me. I have no idea how these are pronounced. Then you would note the telltale signs of the corn mint substitution. So, you know, we know like with our cinnamon, and people ask me this all the time about cinnamon and cassia. So cassia from the Cinnamomum cassia species is commonly derived from the bark or the leaves of the plant, and they both contain a high proportion of the chemical constituent cinnamaldehyde, right? And to demonstrate the importance of understanding a plant's peak production time frame, you can read abstracts from the study, variations in the essential oil yields and compositions of Cinnamomum cassia leaves at different developmental stages. And the reason we talk about this is because the study was examining the differences in the chemical profiles and oil yields between developmental stages of specifically the cassia tree in this instant. And they found that you could have the essential oil yield in the leaves could be as low as 0.54%, as high as 2.12%. That's 4 times as high, right? And to contain varying levels of cinnamaldehyde. Now, research determined that these differences were caused by variations in the number and the maturation level of essential oil producing cells in the plant's leaves. So the more oil producing cells, the more oil the plant makes, the more mature and less aged the cells, the better the chemical profile of the essential oil. So this study again reiterates the necessity of careful attention and expert knowledge when you're collecting essential oil at a plant's peak production. What does doTERRA look for? doTERRA looks for efficacy. They look for the best possible essential oil we can get from a plant. They don't look at how can we produce more and make it whatever, right? Because we have very specific things we're using the oils for. So hopefully that broke that down a little bit more for you guys so you understand a little bit more about the essential oils and what people are doing in the industry. I find it really interesting, you know, as we talk about these to see the many levels that doTERRA has, you know, the many things that doTERRA has done to make sure we are getting the purest oils we possibly can get. So I'm very pleased with that. So any comments or questions on this?
Yeah, I just find it amazing how people can cheat. Like, how could you? I couldn't do that, but I mean, I can see how it happens. And I saw a thing on, I guess it was YouTube. Those little bottle caps, the way doTERRA has them, you know, you break the seal.
Oh
They
yeah.
have those, you can buy those on Amazon, so it's so easy to, you know, to do.
Yep. You're absolutely right, Barbara. But here's the thing. I'm like you. I like to assume that everybody is as honest as you and I are, right?
I do too.
Yep.
And so my husband keeps pointing out to me, he goes, you expect the best from people and you're disappointed when they don't live up to that expectation.
Yeah.
He said, however, if you don't expect anything from them and then they surprise you by doing the right thing, he goes, you can be happy. And I mean, he's not a pessimist. I mean, you know, if we have you have to have expectations of your children and people, you know, your family members, right? But I'm just like you. It's like I could not imagine doing that as a business practice.
I know.
And being able to sleep at night.
No.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, there are people that work for the tobacco industry, and we know how bad that is, right? So, people do their jobs, and they're going to do what they're told. And a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times they may not realize it. It's their supplier, and these suppliers are in whatever country, and they're at subsistence level. Perhaps they've got all this oil, and they need to sell it. They want to sell it, so they're going to do whatever they can to get more money. We know that there's a lot of criminals out there. We know there's a lot of dishonest people. That's why we gravitated towards doTERRA, because doTERRA has so much transparency. Being able to look at the mass spec, being able to go to their facility in Utah and look at exactly what they're doing, exactly how they're examining the oils, even in their lab right there. With all the test reports we can get from source2u.com, from doTERRA. And it's funny because as I was preparing this, I went to a bunch of different other companies' websites, and I was trying to find out what information are they giving us? And some of the companies had like nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I have no idea what they do, how they can call it 100% essential oil, because they don't say they do anything at all. I envision these companies as being those ones that sees a barrel of oil on Craigslist. Oh yeah, I'll get that. I can sell that. That's what I kind of envision here, because they don't seem to have any kind of testing protocols in place, or even a good knowledge of the industry. And we don't. We are with doTERRA, and we support them. We know they have done the work. We know that they are working really hard to be very hands-on, to make sure these things can't happen, to make sure that we are never going to receive in the mail an adulterated bottle of oil, right? That's why we buy them from our own accounts. We know that oil is pure. It's coming directly from their warehouse, so we know it's fresh. And that's a whole nother thing. If it's not fresh, you don't know how it's been handled. If it sat in the hot sun for a year, it's probably not that great an oil anymore, right? And we're paying for these, and we're paying, and we feel like we're paying a lot. I mean, a lot of you guys probably have done the math like I have, which is to figure out, after all my discounts, all the free stuff I get, I'm figuring I'm saving about 64% off these oils. That's a lot, because when I look at that and I compare it to Walmart, then I'm like, so we're not that much more expensive than Walmart. doTERRA's done a really good job of streamlining everything so that we really aren't paying a whole heck of a lot of money for these oils, which is pretty amazing in and of itself. And yeah, there's some oils that are really expensive, like rose oil, for instance. And, people will ask, well, why is it so expensive? It's like, if you look at the, how they have to extract it, how many rose petals it takes, and how fast they have to do it. Because you can extract rose essential oil. Anybody can extract it, right? And you think, why? I could do that myself, right? But you're not going to get anything close to what doTERRA's rose oil is. They have to distill that, they steam distill it, or no, they have to, it's an absolute. So they have to do the absolute. They have to do that like within like an hour of picking the rose petals. Because you ever taken a rose petal, set it out on a table for a day? What does it look like at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's shriveled.
Exactly. That's a very quick process. This will be done boom, 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 like that. And it takes a lot of rose petals to get that oil. So luckily, rose oil is a really strong oil. And you're right, you said earlier, you would not be able to tell, like if you adulterated rose oil, probably not, because that smell is so strong. It takes very little of the actual rose oil to just be, inundated with that smell, right? So we aren't going to know. There's no way that we're going to realize it if it's synthetic. So that's what we, when people ask us, why do we love doTERRA so much? This is why, because they have paid particular attention to the science. They've stayed true to their course, which is to get, these, what we call our natural healing products, immune boosting products, and everything into the hands of everybody they can, so that we can be responsible for helping ourselves heal, for helping to change our lives, make our lives better. That's what doTERRA has done for each and every one of us. And that's why we love to stay with them. And when we're talking to other people, we just have to try to pass along the information, because you all get this question. I know you do. Why is doTERRA oil more expensive? How many people have heard that? These are kind of expensive oils. Yeah, you get the cheap ones at Walmart. You get what you pay for, guys. You want cheap ones?
Especially when you tell folks, I had somebody put 15 drops of lemongrass in a diffuser, and I walked at my mom's house. It was a caregiver, and I walked in, and my eyes were watering. I was like, holy cow, what did you do? And she goes, I can't figure it out. I use just as much of the lemongrass as I do of mine, and it's just way, way too much. And I was like, you only need like 3 drops of our lemongrass. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, 2, really 2, 3 tops. And it smelled like a furniture factory in there because of it was amazing.
People don't realize you use less. You actually save money because I can, I've gone to the store and I've compared, we have our lemon. It's $11 wholesale US, right? I can go to the store and I get lemon essential oil, same size bottle for about $8. So already ours is cheaper just because we're getting, we get it cheaper because we're on the loyalty rewards program. We're probably paying about $8, I guess, overall, right? For the oils.
Those ones at Walmart.
But yeah, but you open up those oils and they're not the same. They are so weak. I tried to use the lemon because lemon oil I used, I got to show you what I did. So this is my remote control and I've halfway finished it. So, because I wanted to do this on video, I want to show people. You know how when you use a remote, I don't know if you can see it, if you use a remote control for a really long time, here, I'm going to make sure I can
That's
put me in
gross.
there. Okay, now.
Yeah, it looks grody.
Yeah, see how dirty this is and everything like this? Okay, this is where I've cleaned it. Do you want to know what I did? I took
one drop of lemon oil.
I did a couple drops of lemon oil. I put on a cotton ball and I just kind of dabbed it like this, let it sit for a minute and just wipe right off. I want to get on video so I can show them when I do the front.
I love the sound effect, Jenny. Do that again. You did what? Woo!
That's what I did. I just did the woo, and yeah. But, I do that and I do that with my mouse and whatever. I don't know why, but the mouse is plastic and my desk is wood, but somehow there's this black stuff, gooey stuff that's all over my desk. And every once in a while I have to clean it off. And so what do? I take my lemon oil and I just wipe it on the desk and I can clean off all that gunk. But I tried it with the stuff I bought a bottle from Walmart to see what it would do. I tried it with that. It did not work.
Walmart stuff,
like, yeah, it is different. It's substantially different.
And our lemon oil is actually cheaper. If you're at the 30% discount mark, you're paying $7.70 for a bottle of pure lemon oil that has the supplemental facts label on it. So know it's pure lemon versus, versus the lemon oil you get at Wally or somewhere else and you can't put it in your mouth.
Well, here's
so
a
if
better,
I can't put it in my mouth, what else is in there?
Yeah. Now, here's a better one. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. So at Walmart, again, so I'm going to use them as an example. At Walmart, I also saw frankincense for $12 a bottle. What do you think they did to get frankincense at $12 a bottle?
They put toxins in it. They put
fillers in it.
Yep, there's got to be something else in it. And any good essential oil company, because it's not just doTERRA. There's other good companies out there. Frankincense is pretty expensive. If you go with a real good company, it's expensive. Why would Walmart have all these essential oils? Sometimes they go there and every single oil is $9 a bottle. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, wow, frankincense is the same price as lemon. That doesn't even compute in my head. That's not possible. So we know that's a problem. I also went to a different discount store. They had a set of 9 essential oils, 9 little essential oils. I think they were 5 milliliter, but that set was $8. And I was like, yeah, there's no way that's natural. You can't do that. It's not even possible to do that. So you can see.
Some people don't care. They don't care.
Because they don't understand. They don't understand the actual benefits of the oils, what they really could take from these oils. They don't understand that they could get so much more value out of the oils if they were using a pure product. And we see it all the time. How many of you guys have had a customer who has used some other brand in the past, then used doTERRA and called you up and said, oh my gosh, I can't believe how strong this is or how good this is?
I've had several people, but I found doTERRA because I bought imperfect oils from a company that I got my herbs from, and they used an oil broker and private labeled the oils. And when I called them on, but they labeled it properly. Like I got an oil that said, it said organic lavender on it. And then when they sent it to me, it said organic lavender, but on the side it said, do not diffuse. Well, if it's organic lavender, you should be able to diffuse that oil.
What are you supposed to do with it? Wait, if it's organic lavender and you're not supposed to diffuse it, what are you supposed to do with it?
They said it was supposed to be used as a fragrance oil in soap. But if I can't diffuse it, why would I want to put it in something that I was going to put on my body? So we have a corporate account because of the farm, because I was making salves and stuff. And so I had a corporate account rep. I called the herb company. I was like, yeah, all right, you're going to have to explain what's going on. And she said, first of all our herbs, we grow ourselves, we dry ourselves, we control everything. And so, we have the highest quality herbs. And I said, that's why I bought these oils from you. She goes, well, we private label these from an oil broker. She goes, really? And she goes, really, Bonnie, you want to look at the two companies you want to look at is doTERRA, and she named another company. And she goes, but I would really push you towards doTERRA. You should go do that research. And so I did my own research, and then I couldn't find anybody to sell me doTERRA or to sign up with in my area. And then that's when I mugged Jenny on Yahtzee. She changed her name to doTERRA Jen, and I was like, I just jumped all over her. I was like, oh my gosh, do you sell doTERRA? Oh my gosh, I want to sign up tomorrow.
I know, because sometimes we wonder, we think that the market's saturated because you'll run into somebody that, oh no, I already have a friend that does doTERRA and stuff like that. But then, every once in a while you run into somebody that's like looking for it. They're like, why can't I find a doTERRA person in my area? Why?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, how many of you guys are signed up for convention now?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm signed up.
Everybody here going to convention, the virtual convention?
Faith is signed up.
Good. Okay.
I'm going to watch the replays because I work. I don't get home till 4.
Right. I think the first night when they introduce the oils, isn't that Wednesday night? It's a nighttime thing, right? So everybody should be able to make it to that one.
Oh, by the way, do we have this class next week because it's Labor Day?
No Labor Day classes. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Go somewhere fun. Oh, wait, you can't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, in case anybody wants to know, I will be teaching the nutrition and supplements class again this Wednesday and on Saturday.
Yeah, we liked that last time. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, if you're watching this later on the replay, and for anybody who's here also, that is, make sure you email somebody, you post something on YouTube if you have questions on how you can go. But it is a nutrition and supplements class. We do it as part of the continuing ed. Bonnie is talking this Wednesday and Saturday, and you don't want to miss it. That is live, and I don't think they record those. So you want to make sure.
They are recorded, but they're recorded only for the instructor to go back and learn how they could be better.
Yeah, but not
so like they're not posted anywhere.
Right. So very important if you want to take advantage of that. Bonnie, you did such a great job last time. I listened to that and I was there. And so I do encourage you to go. And if you don't know how to get there, because that's through one of our upline leaders, just reach out to anybody here. Reach out to me or Barbara or Faith or Bonnie or Jessica or Stephanie. Yeah, just reach out to one of us and we'll help you out. Or you can just post something here on YouTube. We'll make sure you get the information. So you do want to make sure you come. That's why we have the classes, so people can come and learn more. And you did such a wonderful job last time, Bonnie. I thought it was excellent.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
You did a great job, just being honest here. So I thought it was awesome. So yeah, and so I'm not going to do, that's a Labor Day weekend. So there won't be anything until, I think next Wednesday, I am doing another event, one of my regular events that I'm doing. You guys have already gotten the email on that if you want to make it to that one. But I do record them and put them on YouTube, so I'll be putting that one there too.
That's during convention week, though, isn't it?
It is, but I'm just doing it Wednesday. Yeah. Oh, shoot. Is that, no, September 2nd, this Wednesday. 2 days.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I did have one scheduled for the 9th, which I pulled back and I changed it to the 16th. So hopefully everybody's gotten that message, because I realized that is convention and that is the night. September 9th, I believe, is the night they're going to introduce the new oils, and they're doing it in the evening time. And I think they're doing that so that all of us are home, so everybody can see that live, because there's something so exciting when they announce the oils. And if anybody here knows how we can connect during that event, if there's a way to connect at least on Facebook where we can just like chat in things, that would be really cool. I don't know how to do that, but if anybody here knows how to set up a group where we can just kind of chat amongst ourselves during convention, that would be really fun.
We might try, but we might try Messenger, Facebook Messenger. We might be able to do it.
We could just, I'll get on Messenger and comment. That might be an easy way to do it. Yeah.
I also have a WebEx account, or even Google Meet. We might even be able to do that.
I could why don't I just set up a convention 2020 thread? Because last year we had a 2019 thread. I'll just set up a Facebook Messenger 2020 thread.
Okay.
And post that anybody that wants to belong to that, let me know. And we'll add add everybody to that. And that way we could just chat as we see things during convention.
That'll be fun. That'll be really fun.
Okay, I'll set that up as soon as we get off the phone.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie. So it's so nice to see you guys again. Enjoy the next holiday weekend. Like I said, I have a class this Wednesday, and mine is at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Bonnie's is at 6 Pacific, right?
It's at 9 o'clock Eastern,
9 o'clock
so
Eastern,
that's
right.
7 your time.
Right, so, and they are
So
totally different.
So 6,
So-
you're right, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, sorry.
Right, and 10:30 for those people over in Newfoundland. So yeah, make sure. And I think Jessica is, are you 4 hours ahead of us, Jessica? I think Jessica's 4
I
hours.
think so.
If I remember correctly. So yeah, so make sure you make it to some of these events. Like I said, mine will be available online anyway. And with convention, hopefully you've gotten a chance to get your tickets. Hopefully I'll be able to get tickets even last minute if we had to, because it's just virtual this year. So that's going to be sad, but I can't wait to see what the new oils are. And how many people got their convention kit? I have not gotten my convention kit yet, guys.
Oh, it's so
I
cool.
got mine.
Oh man, I want my swag.
Yeah, you should see the cool book, the cool backpack. It's made from 40 water bottles.
Yep.
Seriously.
Mhm,
And
so
the
it's-
new
it's
oil,
around there.
the convention oil is
Yeah.
spicy smelling to me.
Yeah,
It
I
smells
like it.
spicy.
Why don't I have mine yet? I'm sad.
I think they actually started from no rank and went up. I think that the higher your rank, because like Cricket doesn't have hers either.
Yeah, and that makes sense, because we'll be more patient and wait for it. So that makes sense. They want to make sure everybody has them in plenty of time to get people motivated and make sure they attend. And so, and it does make sense. They can't send them all out the same day, right? They just don't have especially with COVID, they don't have the resources to do that. So yeah, I imagine it'll come before convention time. So anyway, it's so nice to connect with you guys again. I will see you soon.
Ginny, I got a quick
Thanks,
question.
Jenny.
Don't
You
go
did a
yet.
great job.
I need help
What,
with
Barb?
something, Ginny. I need help with something.